Good morning. I'm Alex Barnes. I'm a corporal in the 95th Rifles, the 2nd Battalion, the Australian Reenactment Group here. We're currently at a place called Tamanic, that once a year we get together and enjoy a bit of camaraderie, a bit of shooting, catching up, and some really interesting information is passed. So I thought before everybody starts shooting at the range over there, I'll go through and talk about the stuff that a person would be issued and be carrying during the Peninsula campaign. So the 2nd Battalion of 95th Rifles, the group that we're in, focuses on the not Waterloo but the Peninsula campaign, roughly about 1808, 1809. And so the gear that I've got here hopefully fairly well represents the information that we've got. So we'll just go through here. So first off, I've got my Baker rifle. So it is flintlock, muzzle loading. Mine's a 62 cal, which is appropriate, and it's actually rifled. It's rifled to make it more accurate. My previous rifle was a smoothbore Baker reproduction, and this one's effectively twice as accurate. One of the interesting things in here, and you have it with most of the rifles of this period, or firearms of this period, is we've got a little opening here that you can put various things in. It's called a patch box. I don't keep patches in there. I keep my tools, I keep my spare flints. So if I need to repair or clean my rifle, everything is just here, and ease of accessing. So very, very useful. This is the ramrod. The ramrod has attachments in here so you can pull through and go clean. And generally you do not pull the lock and everything apart unless you've been authorized to do so or you're qualified to do so. But that was the main weapon that we would use. This is the cartridge box, and the cartridge box holds cartridges, not surprising. So inside here we've got trays. We've got a top and bottom tray. So you're holding roughly 60 rounds inside here. And these are rounds that have been made up so the ball is inside the paper cartridge. And that was useful for us for quick firing, but if you want to use well aimed shots, you wouldn't use those. We use the powder horn for priming, but this is a thing that we do in the 95th for safety, so we don't prime in here. This is the pan, the flash in the pan saying, and we put powder in here, close it up, and then we'll fire. For safety, we don't prime until after we've loaded and we're ready to fire. It saves, because normally, historically, you would open up the cartridge, prime first, close, and then load. And so there's always that chance of the hammer falling forward and sparking and setting it off as you're loading. It's not a high risk. If you've got a good lock, it should be fine. But just to remove that risk, that's what we do. Anyway, I use the horn for priming, but it was actually used for holding your powder for your well-aimed shots. So it should hold 60 shots worth of powder. The originals would have a little cap over the top here, and it would be pre-measured so you don't put too much or too little into your pan. To hold this down, because this slings over my shoulder sitting here, I've got my belt that goes around my waist, and that stops this when you're running around doing everything. It stops the pouch from jumping everywhere. So I've got my sword bayonet, which fixes to my rifle. And I've got what we call the ball bag. And inside here, this is where you keep all your ball that you're going to shoot. And it just sits here loose. And what I've actually done, and you probably won't be able to see it, but I've got my cloth patches that I've dipped in lard, tallow, and I've stitched them together, so I've got it all encapsulating in here. We know that they had patched ball, whether that was a fabric or whether that was leather. Where they held it, did they hold it in there? You can't hold 60 rounds of patched ball in there. So I've decided to put my my canvas patches onto my balls. They have found ones with leather patches wrapped around the ball, so it's easy to actually load. So we've got this. I'm Rifleman number 46 in the company. This is all the water you've got. This is about a litre and a half, and if it springs a leak or anything like that, your life becomes really difficult. So this is the only water that you've got. This is the haversack, or the bread bag. Now, the original ones, because we've got the ordnance requirements for the contract that go out to make these, we've got the details of it. Having interesting conversations about what fabric we actually use, but the strap was only this long, and we believe this was actually for cavalry, and so it sits high up, especially for me, but I'm larger than your average bear, but it sits underneath your armpit. And they had complaints about this, and so the guys went off and extended it so it actually sits lower down, and it's far more comfortable when you do this, but that wasn't the way they were made. This was for basically holding all your food for the day. This is your bread bag. It was another term that we've used, but haversack is the correct term. And hold 3 days worth of bread and meat that you would have there. The shako, and inside it I've got like a little rain cover for it, just in case if it becomes too inclement. But yeah, this is basically what you would wear all the time. We do have foraging caps, but the question is, when are you going to be using it? It's great to have stuff, it's great to have foraging, wearing a uniform that's not your parade dress. Unfortunately, this is what you're wearing on campaign, and you don't have that ability of the logistics of having, a set of clothes just put aside. You're basically carrying almost everything that you need. So, which moves on to this pack. Now, I haven't painted. Normally you would paint your regimental number onto here. I haven't done that yet. The originals that were found have been painted red. We're 95th Rifles, and our facings are black and green, so we've decided that we're just going to have a black backpack. This is based off the 1795 finds that they've got. You might see the Trotters pack that's there, and we believe that really came around more Waterloo, so it predates the time period that we cover. So we've been very lucky. One of the riflemen during the retreat to Corunna talks about his pack and what was in there, and talking about the weight of stuff. So I'm going to open this up and show you what's actually in it. Okay, so the first thing is your blanket, and they've got some very interesting comments that were made that the blanket was reinforced around the edges to strengthen it, and you could use it as a shelter. So modern Australian Army, we talk about a hoochie. It's your individual shelter, and you string it up between two trees, and you would arguably string it up, connect it to your mates, stretcher, hoochie, and you would have a larger structure that you could hide under when it's raining. They did the same thing. You have got along the edges, the reinforcing, I've added ropes on. Around here you've got buttonholes, and on the flip side, I really hope it's there, is buttons. And so you would come along and button your blanket to their blanket and string it up and create a shelter. They talk about they use their rifle as uprights, which currently makes me quiver, but we don't do that. You could tie it to a tree, or if you've got two trees close enough, you could tie it to there. They also talk about having your sword bayonet used as a tent peg. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be unhistoric and use tent pegs if I'm ever going to do that. So the pouch is a bit like a saddlebag in the sense that it's got two separate pouches here and a central pouch here. Each person generally, or a section, would have your either a small hatchet or bill hook, and that's for collecting wood, clearing out shrubbery and things like that. But that would be a vital thing to have. One of the things is people don't really realise that shoes don't last, and because you're on your feet all the time, your shoes wear out. The soles of the shoes aren't like of today. There's no glues that were strong enough to actually do something, and it probably wasn't worthwhile. And so their shoes were put together, either were stitched and then the soles were tacked on. Now that means with wooden pegs, they just don't last. So what was issued, inside here you would have spare soles. Let's see if I can get this out. You would have shoes issued, and then you would have a spare pair of soles issued. Let me pull it out, come on out. And honestly, I don't think these would be pulled out very often. Okay, so here's a pair of shoes that I need to repair. As you can see here, there's the pegs, and it's just there. And inside there I've got another shoe, and I've got another pair of soles, because if the soles on these shoes came off, I would go to the battalion cobbler and we could put those on. When those shoes were just disintegrating, I would then pull these out. These are straight sided. That lasts. That means they either foot can go in them. It wasn't a left or right. So we've got that, and that was in the central part, I believe, because it fits. And so I think people have to appreciate how little, come on button, so tight. I can only blame the manufacturer of this, which is myself. Okay, so these are the things that were in the pack, and really when you look at it, it's not very much. So you got a pair of spare shoes, you got the soles, you've got two shirts, which is effectively your underwear of the time. You've got a spare pair of trousers, and that takes up that whole pack, that side there, and that's it. On the other side, I have got all the other day-to-day living things. I've got two pairs of socks. I've got my strop for sharpening my razor. I've got my razor. Not historically accurate, this is a plastic tub, but it's soap. I've got one of the 3 brushes. Not historically accurate, but I've got my dubbin, my shoe polish. And I've got the 2 other brushes that they talk about, which is probably for your shoes. and that's it. That's all you've got on you and going on campaign for years. So you can see how simple life would be and what you'd have to do to survive. But yes, it is not incredibly heavy, but when you look at the calories that they've got and the size of the people and the logistic constraints, this for a normal rifleman would be quite substantial. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you understood what I was talking about. I'm not into editing too much, so you'll have to put up with all my errors, and this is just one whole take. Have a great day. Thank you.